None of this was around. We had a big garden growing up, and so over the course of 30 years, we've created what you see here today.
We're still here. I mean, we're a cash positive business for 31 years. Just give people the flexibility. I think that's the other part. Like, we know that family is important, you have a life.
We have this vision that everything has to be golf course, like straight to the death and, immaculate. I mean, that's not who we are. But I also know that the weeds will drop more weed seeds, and that's not good either because it's creating more work. So it's kind of this tussle.
We are at Crystal Organics Farm. You are Jenny and
Nicholas.
And man, that sun is bright. Right. My goodness. There, that's better. So you guys have 70 something acres, right?
175.
175. Yeah. Wow, I missed that one. And I'm seeing right now like tons of high tunnels, tons of employees. This is like a big deal. Like, you guys have like a big thing going on here.
So the history of the farm. So I was born in Belgium.
Okay.
And my family, my mom moved to this property in 1978. I moved here when I was 15 in 83 and finished school, high school and university here. And in 1993, I decided I wanted to be a farmer. And this land was available because it was family land. None of this was around. We had a big garden growing up, but none of this was around. And so over the course of 30 years, we've created what you see here today. In the meantime, I've purchased the land from my mom, so we're the owners of the property. We've always been certified organic. Even my mom was certified organic in 1986 before it became a federal kind of program. So we've been certified organic ever since.
Yeah, back then the certification was done through a local state agency, right? So GOGA, I think was the name of it. So it's been that way for a really long time, which is great, yeah.
So we believe in organics. We're even part of the Real Organic Projects. That's how we live our life, is through eating organic food. So it's not just for us, it's not just a value added, more money type of thing. It's truly how we choose.
Can we elaborate on that a little bit? So you said that your parents bought this and then you decided you want to be a farmer. So your mother had organic food. Was she a farmer? A garden.
She was a gardener.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was raised on organic food even in the 70s, and so
before it was popular. Like, people looked at your mom and thought she was this weird lady growing organic food in her garden in Belgium. And then even when she started here, nobody knew what she was talking about or what she was doing. So
it was really the beginning of the organic movement that she was.
What made her want to be so focused on organics when it wasn't really like something that was popular or known about?
Well, the main reason is actually I am the reason. When I was 2 years old, I was really sick, and doctors did not know what was going on with me. I don't remember what I had or what not, but she actually we lived in Belgium at the time. She contacted this homeopathic doctor in Switzerland. His name is Alfred Vogel. Is it? Vogel. He's an herbalist and has all kinds of products. But she had a correspondence with him, and she suggested that she would just feed me the cleanest food possible, that being organic with no chemicals, and so she started on that path at that time, and she saw a direct result in my health. And basically, that's how her whole lifestyle changed for herself as well, because she dealt with some health issues. And so myself and my siblings were all raised on organic. I mean, organic, it was a very healthy. Well, I guess it really depends on what you consider healthy, but it was her choice on how to feed us. I haven't been to the doctor since I was basically 2 years old.
Wow.
And so and my kids too, they were raised on organic, and we tend to be really healthy. I mean, we look at just the healthcare system totally different than mainstream America. So we do truly believe it starts with what you eat. I mean, there's just so much talk now about the chemicals that are in our food, and glyphosate and all these other chemicals that are invisible to us when you eat them, but they definitely affect our gut system and whatnot. We wouldn't do it any other way. That's how we choose it. Jenny goes far. She goes to all kinds of extremes to source the best food possible.
So things that we don't grow, that we're doing the work to source it from other local farmers like ours,
right.
And to truly find the best and support those farmers. And so we do go to those links too, because we truly live it and believe it.
Yeah.
To go back to your mom's story too, like when she started, she had a small garden here. You would say it's like this little area.
This area here,
right? And so she grew for the family, and then she grew extra and sold to Savananda Co-op in Atlanta.
Okay.
That's still there today, but she would like drive up in the parking lot and go in and ask them if they're, you know, they wanted to buy her watermelons or whatever it was, and then she sold a little extra. And so that's how it kind of started. The kids moved away, went to school, and then it sort of fell into disrepair. So when you came back, it was overgrown, and he kind of started from scratch to bring
I
it
started
back.
Crystal Organic Farm before
He started
that.
the farm,
yeah,
I
so it wasn't until I decided at 23 to give this a shot, and it was really small, rototiller. I mean, I remember how tiny it all was, but the demand was there.
Yeah.
People wanted the food.
So what year was that when you were 23?
93.
93.
So in 93, you saw the demand.
25 I was actually.
25, okay. Either way, in 1993, you saw the demand. People were actually seeking organic food, and you were already there. You're like, I've been doing it my whole life. This is how it is, and that demand went right to you.
Pretty much. I mean,
You met the right people too, who
Right.
sort of helped you form. Well, you can talk about that a little bit. The Georgia Grown Co-op, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
things fell into place. I actually have an international business degree. I always saw myself as a business person.
Okay.
Traveling around the world, I speak some languages, and I thought I'd be, you know, traveling around selling stuff. And I tried that. That job, that kind of work is a lot of talking.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a lot of sales. I mean, you have to talk to 100 people necessarily to get one sale. And I'm just not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm much more like, let's get stuff done with your hands, let's get dirty, kind of, you know, dirty my fingernails. That's kind of more who I am. And so through chance, kind of, I just had this idea of, hey, I think I want to farm. I did some help here, although I didn't like it when I was 16 to be out here shoveling chicken manure. But when I was a little older, a friend of mine had a Christmas tree farm, and she was raising Christmas trees, and I helped her some. And that's when it kind of like a little bug came into my unconsciousness, I should say. Just kind of like, hey, I think I want to farm. And then that's when I came back here and started it. And then then I grew some vegetables, and then before we knew it, there was all the top chefs in Atlanta wanted this food. There was a restaurant owner in Atlanta that wanted a little farmer's market in his parking lot. So it's called the Morningside Farmers Market. It's been around since 1994. I helped start that, and that's really how the farm started, because you put a table of vegetables, people come to buy it. I remember making $300 and being so excited. Like, I can't believe it, because I was waiting tables at the same time, and making $300, you know, waiting tables, it's quite a few hours of waiting tables. It's like, what, $300? I can't believe it. And then, you know, at that point, we just kind of like
Added on.
added
Kept
on,
going.
and slowly, this has been baby steps. A
Over
little bit.
31 years. So
yeah.
people see this and they sort of go, oh, I want this now. And so what you see happen sometimes is that farmers get a little, like new farmers will get in over their head because they see this 31 years worth of infrastructure and work, and then they go, okay, well, I'm going to do that. And the slow growth is really important. And something he talks about a lot is like trying to stay debt free and then doing it as you can, because as a farmer, you can get into a lot of debt really fast. You can buy the most expensive everything. And even here, like a lot of stuff like is older, but it still works. And so we're not trying to like have the newest, most innovative, but what has always worked continues to work. And that's slow growth.
On instant gratification, you see people coming to you and they, like you said, they want to replicate what you're doing. How do you handle conversations like that?
Well, typically when somebody says, oh, I really want to farm, I advise them to go work somewhere.
Or volunteer with us.
Volunteer. This is a lot of work, and I was mentioning $300, and at the time it was a lot of money, but this is obviously not the kind of work where you will make a lot of money necessarily. So I've seen a lot of people come and go. What did you say the statistic is? That 1 out of 5 or 4 out of 5?
I think it's like 80, like in the first 5 years, I want to say it's like 85% of new farmers will fail. They will close within the first 5 years. You may know the statistic even better than me, but yeah, it's something like that. And so we encourage like young farmers. We try, like there's a lot that have come through here who have gone on to start their own farms. Some are neighbors down the road, and the hands-on experience here, what you're saying, is the most important. But like, what would you tell them?
Well, there's so
starting
many
out?
challenges to this work. I was fortunate, and that I did have this family land. Now, it wasn't given to me. I've worked for it. I've bought it, and I'm paying for it. So it wasn't like, hey, son, good luck. which is, you know, some farms do have that opportunity. This wasn't the case here, but I did, when I started, I did have this available. And if you don't have this available, it's even a bigger challenge. And so I did have that, and it made it possible. I would probably not be doing this had I not had that family land. So that's one. And secondly, as times have changed, there's a lot of people wanting to do this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of small farms. Yet the amount of people that really want to dedicate their money, their dollar, food dollar, to organics, it's not necessarily growing as fast as the amount of farmers, is what I'm realizing. So we're all competing somewhat. Here in the South, in Georgia, is not as bad as what I think I've been told is in Washington, Oregon, or in California, where there's a lot more of those small farms, where people really truly compete. And
Do you think that then the barrier to entry is just too high, and that's why people want that instant gratification, because they think that if they want to get in the game, they have to go all in with how many greenhouses do we have right here? Just 8. They need 8 greenhouses to even try to get in the door. Do you think that that's what people think? And is it true?
You know, if you have the money, it's one thing. If you don't, then I would suggest people to start really small and find out what their market is. Go to a farmer's market. Figure out how you're going to sell this food. Because at the end of the day, this is always going to be a business, and you've got to make that work. And know your customer and have a very clear idea of where you will sell this food. Because there's so many challenges to it. And for us in the South anyway, selling has not been an issue. But also, I'm coming from 30 years experience, having a name recognition. People know who I am, or the farm at least. All of this, you know, it's what happens when you've been at something for a long, long time. But if you're brand new at it and they don't know who you are, then it's not as easy. You may not get the call back. And so there's a lot of farmers markets. There's a lot of opportunity. My suggestion is you start really small, even though your goal is to be very big or bigger, but start small and be very clear about who will buy you food, and that they're willing to pay the price that you are putting out there. We're realizing now is that profits are not as easy to get as they were back then. Everything's gone up.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, I think educating the customer too is really important, and something else I'm sure we'll touch on, but like diversifying what you do and offering products that are different, because every farmer is growing cucumbers and squash and tomatoes, but what can you do to set yourself apart? And I think that's what you also, I mean, Nicholas was lucky enough for the farm to start and be kind of on the forefront of a lot of the slow food, local food movements, organic movement in the Southeast. But like even through that, we've had to still diversify. Like we grow a lot of bitter greens and endives and things like that that were really popular in Belgium. But then we've moved into so many medicinal herbs as well. And I think that's another advice for new farmers like starting out too, is to figure out, why are you different? Like what sets you apart, and how do you show up in a market to be different than the rest?
Absolutely.
And then educating the customers on what some of those products are, because a lot, like when you started offering bitter greens or endives at the market, people were probably like, what is this bitter green? But then you teach them how, like, you sell an endive salad mix, and this is how you make a sweet dressing or whatever it is, to teach them about it. And when we were still going to markets, we would bring in something new, like say hibiscus, and we put a little sign about, here's how you make hibiscus tea, you know, and so really teach them and talk to them and engage with them. And I think one part too is like, he always went to markets for 25 years. He was at the market every Saturday. His face, he did not outsource that. He did not hire somebody else. And there was something to be said for the farmer himself being there. So he had people coming with the kids, and then those kids grew up and brought their kids. Like he's seen the generations of customers, and so they have that connection. Whereas if you send an employee, I don't know, I mean, they're not as invested, it's not their business. You don't blame them, right? And it's like, I think that made a big difference for you always being there. And you made a lot of life sacrifices for it, but for you to be there was
Absolutely.
Relationship, building relationship with your customer, either at a farmer's market or, I mean, there's opportunity, but before you go all in, you got to figure out what those opportunities are and know your climate, know your soil. I mean, there's just so much to it, and I'm still learning. When I started, it was basically, let's go in, let's do it. There was not much risk because nobody was doing it. But now there's a bit more, because there's a lot more folks doing it, young folks that are want to give it a try. And so you encourage that, of course, because we need more and more and more. I mean, if you ever heard of the Real Organic Project, this whole thing is It's a well, Jenny's better at explaining it, but they encourage local food. It's all about local food and get away from. I mean, our food system is basically controlled by a handful of multinationals, and they got us. And the only way we break that system is by people doing what we're doing. But they don't make it easy, and so that's my very first thing. This is a long-term adventure. It's not like a startup type of thing where you create this app and then you hope that somebody like will buy you and pay you millions of dollars. This is not what this is. This is slow and easy and working your soil, and because that's the number one thing that you work in creating nutritious food. There's this statistic that you have to eat twice as much broccoli nowadays as you did 40 years ago because the broccoli just doesn't have the nutrients in it anymore. And so you focus
that comes from the soil.
Right, and you focus on that, and then people will notice it and come to support you.
Yeah. You mentioned diversification, and we're here in front of these beautiful flowers. So what flowers are these again?
So these are calendula flowers. Calendula flowers was one of the first medicinal crops that we decided to grow on the farm. We overwinter these actually. So these go in the ground in the fall, winter. We do several plantings of them, and then they sort of start to fade out when the summer heat comes. They don't love that, so we've found that they do really, really well. We do have them in a high tunnel. You could grow these outside easy in the spring, summer, but we keep them in here because heavy rain damages them and things, so they're more protected here. We come in twice a week. We hand harvest every flower. We clip the tops of them. So what you're looking for is the flower.
The big open one.
You're looking for the big, yeah. And so that's what you want.
So why this flower? You said this is the first medicinal herb that you use. Mm-hmm. Why?
This is the first one we grew. So yeah, you've probably seen calendula flower in skin like salves and oils and creams and things like that. So it's very healing to the skin. And so if you've touched these flowers, there's a very sticky resin on them. And even on the, it'll be on your finger. So that sticky resin is the medicine. So it's very healing. You could infuse these into oils, salves.
You can also eat them.
You can eat them, so the petals are edible. Yep, and so we sell them fresh, so just as an edible flower.
I really want to eat it.
Yeah, try it.
It doesn't
like? Not much. It's pretty neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they're really
tastes like grass.
Yeah, but you
it's
can
put
it
in a salad.
Yeah, so you put it on a salad, on your omelets, your eggs, and then you can make teas for them. Or with them. So internally, really good for lymphatic system, immune system. So really, even healing to the gut and things inside, because you think about skin healing, also internally healing.
I mean, the skin is the biggest organ of the body, right? So
right, and you think about that action inside the body as well. So we sell a lot fresh, but we also dry pounds and pounds and pounds of these. Sell them dried. We ship them all over the country, and so that's something new. It's a new aspect of our business when we talked about diversification is moving into shipping herbs around the country, and so that's proven to be there's a huge demand for it, and there's not a lot of farmers doing it yet. There should be more. I hope there's more, because ideally, we're sourcing our medicinal plants and herbs from our region as well. About 85 to 90% of medicinal herbs are imported from other countries. And so when we heard that statistic at an herb conference, I don't know, 6 years ago now, we were sitting there listening to what the herbs were, and we were like, oh, some of these already grow here. They're weeds. They're cover crops like oats harvested in the Milky State. The milky oats, like that's a cover crop we already do. And so we thought we can grow these here, like they grow here. And we started small, and there was a huge demand. Lots of herbalists, home herbalists, big herbal businesses. We partnered up with some awesome people whose businesses have grown as ours have, and so we were lucky in that aspect.
Nicholas, you kind of started with the vegetables, but Jenny, when you got on board, did you bring the herbalism to it? Why? Let's get your background a little bit.
Yeah, so I was pretty sick as a kid, and so kind of coming from that same story as him, I had a lot of allergies, asthma. Like I was the kid who would run and be out of breath and like have an asthma attack, and it carried into my adult life where I thought, this is not, like I don't want to live like this forever. And I was seeking some sort of healing, some sort of answers for what was going on with me. Then there were more food allergies that developed. And so then I started to, I actually found his mother first, who's a homeopath, before I met Nicholas.
Okay.
So I'd moved back I grew up in Georgia, had left for many, many years, and came back and met a friend who introduced me to his mom. And so she became my homeopath and helped me through that. I saw homeopathy was helping me, was healing me from a lot of things. And then I started to buy food from the farm, met Nicholas. I was working in sales back then, was kind of miserable, and thought, I'm going to leave this pretty big sales job and I'm going to go, I want to learn to farm. So I sent him a text message on a random day and I'm like, I know you don't know me. I buy your food. Can I come work on the farm a couple of days a week? And he was like, yes, come Monday. And it was a Saturday. And so we met and fell in love and are married now. So that's sort of our story. And so as I was doing that, like working here, I was going to school to learn homeopathy. So I actually studied it, became a homeopath. And then that sort of led into the medicinal herbs because it's all this herbal energy healing, homeopathy is, and herbalism. They're closely intertwined, I find. And so, yeah, I started like, well, we can grow these and I can make my own medicines. And that's even more amazing that I can do this with my hands and grow my medicine in my backyard. So I started with a tiny little garden at our old house, just trying a few herbs and going, oh, this works. Like, look at this tincture or this tea that I made, and it was powerful. So like, to me, making the medicine yourself is part of the medicine. Like growing and making that yourself is part of it because it's just so much bigger that you can do the full circle of from start to finish of making your own medicine. And then I was doing a little bit, I was putting it out on like Facebook or Instagram. We had a very small following, and a couple of people just reached out and were like, hey, will you sell this to me? Will you sell this to me? And there was a couple of herbalists. So I was like, yeah, what else do you want? And so we would grow more and they would buy more, and it just sort of grew like that until we were like, wow, we can have it whole. And back then I would send like an email to a handful of people and say, here's what I have, do you want some? So it started very small, and then we were able to open the farm apothecary and the online store and shipping and things that are now.
So here we have the Vidalia onions. No, I don't call them Vidalias because we're not in Vidalia.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You can't do that if there's a region, a marketing region on the east coast of near Savannah, and and that's where they grow the Vidalia sweet onions. But really, what they are, the onion itself is called a yellow granix, and if you grow it in that region, you can call it Vidalia. But, so we call it Georgia sweet onions. And so we start all our onion sets ourselves in the high tunnel. We take a little 4 or 5 seeds and put them in a tray, and then once they grow out of that, we transplant those 4, 5, 6 onions into a bed here.
Like this, so we split them all up and we put them in like this.
Yeah. Well, first we plant the clumps, and then they grow bigger, and then we separate them again. So we actually transplant them twice. Onions is, it's one of these crops that people love.
Yeah, yeah, and again, it's like the celery. I mean, you have a good flavor when the soil's healthy and when it's not sprayed with a bunch of stuff, and you can't find that flavor texture even anywhere else.
And then you also have to look at your markets. Now, if you go to a farmer's market, or you have a CSA, or you have an online store like this, you really want a lot of different varieties. If you were to work with a with a wholesaler, like we used to sell to Whole Foods, and if you work with a big company like that, you could just grow 2 crops and just sell it all to them.
Yeah.
But we have our own online store. We sell to a meal kit company who are always looking for new things. And then we also worked with this great company called Fresh Harvest, and they do home delivery of products, all kinds of products, and they really focus on local foods, vegetable, meat, prepared foods, all kinds of stuff, home delivered. It's pretty awesome. And we worked out a deal with them so that we actually have a crystal organic basket. So it's only our stuff in there. It's the ultra, or the, what did he call it? The ultra local. He had a name for it. Hyper local. Because the other products could be coming from, they have partners, farmers in California that they work with, even Canada, for certain things. But this is a crystal organic farm only box. And so we started that in September. It's been really good. And for that too, you want to make it exciting. You don't want to have, you don't want to have the same stuff week in, week out. So it's kind of changing a little bit.
So is that more like an online CSA then?
It's like a home delivery base. So like they have, so basically you go on their website, and they're located in Georgia. So it started with local Georgia farms, and now they work with small farms, some outside the state, but the concentration is to stay with Georgia producers. You go on their website and you sign up for a basket, is what they call it. So there's different size baskets and different options. Like you have the Georgia grown small, or a fruit basket, or whatever, and it starts with certain items, and then you can add on, like you could do your whole grocery shopping through them, and then it's delivered to your door.
Gotcha.
So one of the basket options is the Crystal Organic Farm basket, and so that's just from our farm, and so it's like our CSA delivered, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So we
Okay,
bring
so
it
they're
to
not
them.
necessarily picking the products; they're just buying the basket.
Yeah.
And you put the basket together.
We put it together
Make
every
it.
week, and it changes, and they put that on the website. And then, so it's a subscription that people sign up for. So it's on a rotating weekly basis, basically. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's grown, and we left the farmers market in 2020, and the Morningside Market, been there 25 years, and a lot of customers were left behind when that happened. And so there's been such a demand for those customers. So we're about an hour from Atlanta, so it's kind of far. In the beginning, some would drive out here like during the pandemic and things. And so, but over time, that's a drive for them. So when we partner with Fresh Harvest on this basket, a lot of those customers were able to get our produce again. And,
Nice. That's awesome.
So that was helpful.
So that's really cool, so that,
Yeah.
we're able to find, those are the type of things that, if you're new to this, you have to find before you, grow a high tunnel full of celery, because
And then go, where am I going to sell
Yeah,
it?
where am I
Yeah,
gonna-
have a market before
there's
you
just
grow
so
it.
many
Yes.
things, planting a seed is only a minute fraction of the whole work that's involved in actually creating, getting income and making a living off of that one seed. So it's got to be really thought through.
You guys have you got it figured out? You think by like almost to a science what you grow and
I don't know if it's any kind of science,
Are we ever figured out?
but
People ask him a lot, certain, like, how do you keep track of this? And what is your, and you can attest to this, you've always worked a lot on intuition. And that's a hard thing to teach, but also he keeps wonderful records and all the things that you have to have for certification as well. But some of it's on intuition. But I would say that we do have it figured out. I mean, in the sense that, like, we're still here. I mean, we're a cash positive business for 31 years. In that sense, we do have it figured out. We employ 6 people year round, not counting us. And then we have volunteers who come through that just want to learn from him, and some part-time help here and there as well. But we're able to employ, in our small rural town, 6 people year round, which is good for us.
how do you find your workers? Because I know that's been a problem since the century began, finding good help. How do you find good workers, especially on a vegetable farm?
Gosh, I guess we've been kind of lucky. So everybody that's been here has been here for quite a few years now. When we like one Matt, who's here, he just showed up one day during our farm store and said, hey, I just moved back from North Carolina. I know how to farm. Do you need help? And we said, yes. And he can do all the tractors and equipment, and he's fantastic. Yeah, and then some of the women here have been here for years, and I would put something maybe on Instagram. I think I've used a couple of, Indeed or sometimes or something, but it seems like people just sort of show up. Like, we have more people asking to work here. Yeah, like me. But we have more people asking to work here than we have positions open. Like, people will just randomly send emails. Are you hiring? Are you looking for, I'm looking for work. I want to learn. And so I keep those kind of in my back pocket where if somebody were to leave, but we don't really have turnover. So we don't have to fill a position really.
Why do you think that you're getting so many people asking to come and work here? Like, I don't know, has that been typical through the 30 years?
It has.
Really? That seems an interesting piece to me, because typically you don't have people run into a farm asking to work.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 things, I think. I just have this innate belief that the right people will show up, and I believe it. So it's not like I doubt it, I know it. So I guess so far I've been proven right. Secondly is that we do have 6 people working, but 2 of those are full-time. The rest of them we found that, for one, women are really good at this work. But then if you have a mother that has kids and she can only work 2 to 3 mornings a week, that's actually our perfect candidate, because it gives them a chance to do something and be outside, and at the same time to continue their life.
In the quiet.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, for real. And then now Cheryl, she has 2 kids, but they're grown. But she loves to come out here, be in the sun, be outside in the fresh air, and she really just wants to work 3 mornings a week. And then Claudia too. I've known her forever, and she's a potter, and so she needs more time to do her pottery. So she tells her, hey, I can work 3 days a week, half days. Kristen over there, she's a baker, and she wants to be out here and learn, and she can only work 3 mornings a week. And so those are really our candidates. So we have Alec, who's he works full time, but he's starting his own farm. It's like, okay, well, I mean, do it. And then as he's about to start, he's going to reduce his hours, and we're going to work with him.
We just give people the flexibility. I think that's the other part. Like, we know that family is important. You have a life, and then so we give them that flexibility and we keep 9 to 5 hours. So we keep regular workday schedule, and then in the summer we may push back to 8 to 4. But that's it. Like, people, I mean, I hear of farmers that are working until 11 o'clock at night, and their employees are there before market. And maybe that's not all the time, but like, it's still, you can't do that to people. And I think we keep really set hours. We recognize people have a life outside of work. We give them the flexibility. We give them credits to shop in the farm store every week, so they can, like, also on top of their salary, like, they can shop, and they're welcome to, like, pick and take home vegetables too. So we give them that. That's a little add-on bonus for it. And I think people too, I mean, maybe just the reputation, doing it for a long time. Everybody who works here has their own, at least, garden or homestead, or like one that he mentioned is starting a farm. So, but all of them grow their own little garden for their family, or flowers, or homestead, and so they're learning while they're here too. And I think that's part of it, is to want to come and learn, and that's why we have people reaching out.
Just flexibility, and we realized we paid them well, when it comes to being paid
For farm work, yeah.
For farm work. So I think all these, we've had people that work here for 15 years, over 15 years, and obviously then at that point sometimes the body may not hold up, or they want to try something else.
How are you able to not get burnt out? You said that you keep
Oh, gosh.
regular workday hours, but you live here. So how do you not burn out from this kind of work?
That's like, I think that's the ongoing question, as to how you almost have to schedule self-care, and you have to schedule time away, like, even if you're here, that you're not working, living on the farm, and so having really, really strict boundaries around the work, personal life, and the self-care is really important, and to have those routines in place, especially on your body. I mean, I've done it for 8 years now, and 10 years now. You've done it for 31, so you've got to take care of your body too. I mean, eating the good food is one thing, but you've also got to rest, and we do yoga. And
I was going to ask, how do you do self-care? Because that's probably the hardest thing a farmer can do, is self-care. Farmers are meant to help other people, just like in their DNA. They become a farmer because they want to help somebody else, and they rarely take the time to help themselves. So what do you guys do to keep that balance?
Well, we have a good morning routine, I feel like. So if we get up in the mornings, we do some meditation, some journaling or reading. We try to do yoga. We eat a good breakfast. We sit and connect. We kind of plan our day in the morning. But it's a practice, right? So you've got to, you have to do it. It's a routine. We get up and see the sunrise every morning. So we do go outside. We get the sunrise light in our eyes and kind of start, from there. Same with the end of the day. Like, when we're done. We have a good meal. We like to eat outside when it's nice. We see the sunset, take a bath. Read a book. He likes to watch sports. That's like his wind down. So that you do have those good boundaries. And then getting off the farm is really important. Sometimes we'll go like a week and go, we haven't left the farm at all, because we live here, we work here, employees come here.
Your food is here.
That's our social life too. So it's like, okay, we have to leave, even if it's just to go to a coffee shop or antique shopping, or I don't know, just to get out of here for a minute.
Is that hard for you? Like you said, it's been a week and we haven't left the farm. Is it hard for you to remember to do that?
Well, it's harder for me, not for her, but she encourages me. But when you talk about burnout, I think everybody, when I had kids, I still have kids, but when they were younger, and you'd see them play out here, that brings you a kind of level of and you see them eating the food and playing in the dirt, and you just see them interact with nature and work, and learn how the meaning of work. It brings such a satisfaction that you will endure more, just to make sure that they have that. Now that they're grown, it's kind of the things that she is mentioning. Now with age, obviously that becomes a lot more crucial to do that self-care. I always encourage farmers to get in that routine much earlier than I did. It's never too late, but it really makes your body, if you take time to yoga, stretch.
But also the mental aspect of it, you need that mental break as well, wouldn't you say? Because you're constantly thinking about the next thing to do, and here's that running to-do list. We find that like writing it down on a book and then keeping a list to get it out of your brain is helpful.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
Because you have that constant running, especially a farmer, oh, I need to do this, and you're walking around, I need to do this, and it never ends, right? You can just get what you can get done that day. But to kind of brain dump it out into paper is helpful. I think you found was helpful too.
And, you know, and every farm's different. Every farmer is different. I mean, we're fortunate that we do it together. If she was not here, you know, our life would probably be different. And so, you know, you have to do what works within your scope of life, but making time for yourself is very important. And because, you know, we walked through here, and I was like, oh my God, they're going to see this on the video.
The first thing in his brain is weeds. I know
you know,
it is.
and so, you know, but that's part of it too. So I tend to be kind of, you know, we have this vision that everything has to be golf course, you know, like straight to the death and, you know,
Perfect.
immaculate. I mean, that's not who we are. But I also know that the weeds will drop more weed seeds, and that's not good either because it's creating more work. So it's kind of this tussle. The most important thing for us is the food that actually leaves this farm to be the most nutritious and obviously look really good, because we do charge a premium for it. And so we don't want to sell stuff that isn't premium. It's like, you know, we consider ourselves the Mercedes of the food. Mercedes is more expensive, but you also have much higher quality. And so this is what I compare our vegetable to. It's more expensive, but it's the highest quality.
So the price looks higher, but when you look at the nutrients that you're getting, really it kind of levels out.
That's a good point.
And then you want to talk about doctors. Who was it? I don't remember who said it. Someone said you either pay for it in your food or you pay for it at the doctor.
That's and it's so true because I mean, if it starts with the food and clean water and your environment, like I feel like those are like your baseline. Like you've got to have your house in order before you add all these other things maybe on top of that. To me, that's your house, right? Your food, your clean water, your environment. When you're doing those things, I mean, like he said, he's 56. He hasn't been to a doctor in the time that I've known him, and he hasn't been since he was 2 years old. I mean, you know, he's doing something right, and that's from his mom also, and, you know, in his adult life, continuing that and being committed to it. Even in his 20s, like at college, you still were eating organic, and that's pretty impressive because, I mean, he didn't. I mean,
I wasn't quite as healthy back then.
Yeah, but when you're in your 20s, your body's a little more
when
resilient.
I met him, he had never had a jalapeno popper or stuff, like some of these, like, you know, American, like, junk foods you had never had, and I thought that was really funny, and I'm like, well, you gotta try it, you know, so that you're, you, like you said, you pay for it now or you pay for it later, and so that, if you start with those foundational things, you may not find yourself at the doctor and into the healthcare system that is just going, you know, you've got to keep you coming back in a lot of ways.
Right, and then that also, the medicinal herbs also fall into that idea, because I mean, you can heal yourself. You don't have to be, doctors are important. I am not saying that they're, that shouldn't be around, because they do save lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, they're only doctors, and what they study is not necessarily what I believe. And so, when you can grow echinacea yourself, or a different yarrow, different flowers that you can make a tincture of yourself, make your own medicine is very empowering. And just like if you have time and you have the space to have your own garden and grow your own food, is very empowering. And so, and in Europe, in Belgium, it's a little bit more like that. The American culture and food culture, it's a little less. That's why that's why I find the medicinal herbs so empowering, because it's where she sells them, the people she sells them to are very small herb companies in comparison, and they provide and make this awesome medicine. We're part of that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just for example, what we see here is dandelion greens. Now, people think dandelion, they're the yellow flowers that, people do everything they can to kill with Roundup or whatnot. And actually, this is the culinary version of it, so it's actually in the chicory family. It's not in the dandelion family. But it's a bitter green, and it's tasty. Now, it's bitter, but you can slightly saute it, or you can make a salad out of it. And when I do make a salad out of it, I add a little maple syrup to sweeten it up a little bit and take a little bit of that bitterness away. But it's really good for the liver. And
I think bitter is a flavor that's been lost in our in American food and culture.
I completely agree with that.
And it's really important, so you hear of bitters. A lot of people have heard of bitters that people would take before their meal or after their meal to help with digestion. It's helping support the liver, helping get the gallbladder moving and getting things moving through. And so when you eat these bitter greens, it's doing a lot of that same work. And so, I mean, I think in Europe too, like you guys would have something before or after your meals, like that was more tradition there, right? What was it called?
I forget the name of it.
know.
Yeah, but it's a little bottle that you let
Okay,
you drink.
and
But
Just
it's like,
aids in digestion.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not aperitif, no.
No,
That would be like
aperitif is before.
Yeah. But it was like, yeah, so that's more like he's saying in their culture, there was a little bit more of that versus
Yeah,
here.
people cook and they go to, it's just a little different now. That's also slowly being lost because of the multinationals that are basically trying to control the whole world about how, where we eat.
Like the fast food company,
Yeah,
everything
the fast
moving
food
in.
companies and the prepared foods and the processed foods and the sugars and you name it. But I always think the more that happens, the more we have an opportunity because people do want an alternative.
Yeah.
The more the world goes that way, you're going to see a huge movement of people going the other way. We're already seeing it, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot of people much younger than us going back to the land, back to homesteading, back to raising their own animals and their vegetables. And, a lot of the people I sell to the herbs too are like mothers and, people or for their community that are just making medicine for their kids and for their family or for their community. It doesn't have to be these big companies. And I think like for that too, it's super empowering because then they feel like, oh, I've got this. Like I can take care of my kids myself, when something arises. And I think that's, like he said, very, very empowering to see that. And so you do have this movement of people going the other way, which I feel is important. And they seek you out. So
And then for you to go around the country and, seeking out farms like this to showcase what we're doing and the importance of it. I mean, that's just all part of this movement that's slowly changing now. It's a slow process, but the people that are the people that support us, they support us. It's not just sometimes you get it's one time and then you don't see them again. But typically, this is
usually
what
it's their
right.
the customers are every week.
If there was anybody anywhere in the whole world that was really interested in what you guys are doing and maybe they want to get started in that, what would be like the piece of advice that you would give them?
Well, I would say go volunteer on a farm. Go work on a farm. Go, even if it's just to volunteer, go learn what it's about first to see if you can really physically do it, to really understand what it takes, even mentally, physically, and go to different farms, learn from different people, learn different techniques. I always say that is the most important thing versus taking like an online class or something. You really need to get in the soil and experience it.
I mean, obviously that, but even before that is to just to get to know the farmers, so that you see what their life's about and how they live their life, how much they work, what it really takes just by building relationship. And then obviously the work aspect is it's its own thing, and definitely, try your own garden first, and take your time. This is not something that you can just. Unless you had $1 million to throw at it, it'd be a different story.
But even then, you'd probably have so many failures.
Yeah.
If you didn't start
so
small on like one tomato plant where you realized that, you're supposed to water it a certain way, you'd probably have bigger failures if you start bigger.
Right.
So
Because that's really our job is to limit those failures.
Yes. You say minimize
your failures
a
because
lot.
we always have them, and if you minimize them, the biggest thing people have to realize is that it's not just putting a seed in a little seed tray and then watch it grow and then plant it but then you got to water it, you've got to weed around it, you got to fertilize it, you got to, if it's a certain crop, you have to maybe trellis it, or it all takes attention. But this is something that's extremely important, and I encourage everybody to definitely look into it if they're interested, because give them a new appreciation of nature. Really, of there's such a disconnect. Because we look around at just the weeds around here. People don't even know what they all are.
I see like right now 5 weeds you could eat.
Right.
Or that are medicinal.
Or they're medicine.
Or that are medicine.
Or they're
so
medicine.
it's like we walk by and are so unaware of what's right here, in our environment.
And so, our culture is like, let's spray it because we want Bermuda grass, or we want nothing but green grass, and no weeds in the border, or you kill all the dandelions and whatnot. When the dandelion is actually the most medicinal plant you can possibly use in
The
your
whole plant, yeah.
the whole plant. So people just need to become aware of that and just lose a little bit of a mindset of So just start.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Do it
Just
and start small.
Start small,
Start
do it,
small.
learn some people, get to
Yeah.
know some people, get a better understanding of what it takes.
We encourage people to, I haven't seen all farmers be like this because there's some with the mindset of competition and things. We really are not that. I think something Nicholas has always said is there's always enough to go around. There's always enough to go around. And we are believers in like you create your reality. So you say that there is enough to go around.
Yeah.
It's more about collaboration, not competition. So we do encourage people to reach out and like we get emails all the time or Instagram messages asking questions, how to do this or that. Can I come visit your farm? Yes, we encourage people to come out. We're open one day a week for that too, or we do tours, or we, he does some consulting work, but even he does free calls with people if they just want to kind of learn what it's about. So we are about like sharing information freely and helping people that are trying to get started, because when he started, there wasn't really the internet.
Yeah.
He started with a couple of books like Elliot Coleman, and so, to have that resource in us or in him is really, and same with the medicinal herbs. There's a lot of people that want to come learn how to do that, and I encourage it because the more of us doing it, the more that we can actually make a difference, I feel like. So
100%. I mean, I would go to a farmer's market and, if you're the only booth that does really well, the market as a whole is not a success. The only way a market as a whole is a success is if every vendor does really well. Now that may mean that you make a little less, but the success of the whole is bigger, and that's really the concept. It's like if you just like, I want it all, like this is all mine, then it's not a long-term solution. And then you just going to relationships. It's this is kind of industry where relationship is key, because we're not these 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 acre farms that just pump out lots of food and just ship all over the country.
Well, thank you both so
thanks
much.
for coming.
I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
yes.
It's been amazing, and any links that you guys want will be in the description,
Cool.
so people can click on those.